Take it to the road. Smells so good. Smells so good. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, Panda Express. I love Panda Express. Oh, Glizzy. 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 Oh, soccer ball. Messi. Glizzy. Glizzy. Glizzy.
You guys know who that is?
Absolutely not.
That would be one Lil Pump.
Oh,
That's what he's doing these days. He's doing live streaming himself being an NPC on TikTok.
He's
Uh
shouting random things.
about
yeah.
glizzies?
Yeah, he's talking about glizzies. He's,
Panda
making
Express.
yeah, exactly. It's not that different from his music, kind of the same vibe, but
Agreed.
guys, if this podcast doesn't work out, and let's be real, it's not looking good right now. This is what we're gonna be doing. But I bring that up also. I want to give you guys a little travel itinerary that Lil Pump went on last year. So this is from July 13th to October 2nd. This is his I'm Back tour. And I mean, Lil Pump, he's been back. I mean, when was the last time you went a day without hearing about him, right?
Every
He's
day.
he's back. So July 13th, he was in Warsaw, Poland. Which I think he only got into because it's very easy to get in there. He actually marched in backwards and they thought he was leaving.
Nope.
We got Cadiz, Spain, which, who even needs to know
That's
about that? July 28th, Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Given his endorsement of Trump at like probably the worst time in history that you could possibly endorse Trump. Uh, you know, Great minds think alike there. August 3rd, Bucharest, Romania.
of course.
August 5th, Putuj, P-U-T-G, no, P-T-U-G, P-T-U-J, Slovenia, a town of 20,000 people. August 19th, Ulaanbaatar, the capital of Mongolia.
Oh,
Yeah.
love that place.
August 20th, Tokyo. Yeah, it's respectable. Uh, August 26th, Bali, Indonesia. August 28th, Taipei, Taiwan. September 22nd, he's taking a month off. He's going to go to Tampa, and then a day later to Tallahassee. So he
Hometown.
did get some tour dates in his home state. He's going to close that out October 1st and 2nd, Sao Paulo, Brazil, and Buenos Aires, Argentina. I don't know how this tour ended up going. It can't have gone that great. I'd like you guys to compare that to another travel itinerary I have for you. Um,
What would
this
that be?
this smooth first baseman, you may say, started his career in Cleveland for a really long time.
Does he play the strings smoothly?
Yeah, he does. And in Cleveland, I went to one Cleveland game, and it was a hot one. I'll say that. Um, and then he went to Philly. Um, but I think it was maybe too intense for him. Went back to Cleveland. Um, and then went to Kansas City, where it's even hotter. It's the hottest place on the face of the earth, I think.
Yeah.
Uh, and then where'd he go after that? Seattle, which had to just feel like heaven for him. He's been in the most disgusting places his entire career. And he goes to Seattle and he says, you know what? That was so nice. I think I'm going to go to Pittsburgh too. Get the other side, all those other mountains. And
Yeah.
then what happens? Nope, back to Milwaukee.
Banished to Milwaukee.
Carlos Santana's tour of the Midwest. I would love to interview him someday.
I know.
I would.
He'd
I
make
would.
a great tour guide.
He really would. He would.
100%.
Would you want to go to any of the places he'd make a great tour guide for?
Maybe. If I'm trying to get the best taste of pierogies in the country and a little bit of cheese and Philly
Burnt ends.
and heat exhaustion.
Yes.
Stroke.
Yes. He can tell you where all the best brown grass is in Kansas City because I think that's their main export. I bring these two stories up. One because I wanted to talk about Carlos Santana, but also if you're a guy like Lil Pump or a baseball team like say I don't know the New York Yankees, um, you may find yourself down and out. You may be flailing around. but you can always make a move. You can always do something. And I think that's what the spirit of the trade deadline is all about. And I think that's what we're here to talk about today.
Yes, sir. Now, I mean, before we get into that, speaking of the Yankees, was there anything we want to get off our chest, or do we want to go straight into our little game?
I think we're gonna wait on that because I think some people on this call have some
We can play the game though.
we can play the game.
Part of the game.
It
It's
is
part of the game. So this game right here, it's gonna be called SpongeBob Patrick Squidward. I assume all of you who are listening clicked on the link on one of our Instagrams. So you all know who these people are. Your SpongeBob team, that's gonna be the team you're just happy about. Doesn't matter what's gonna happen in the future, but you're happy right now. Patrick, you're looking around, you're like, I don't know what's going on. You don't have a clue. You're like Patrick. And if you're Squidward about a team, well, you're just grumpy. You're grumpy, you're not happy, and you got something to say. So who wants to go kick this list off? Who's got a team they want to be SpongeBob about first?
Should we do all of our SpongeBob's first?
Yes.
Okay.
true.
I can go
Yeah.
first.
Kick it off.
My SpongeBob is the Houston Astros, who, as of day of recording this video, Justin Verlander is starting for them tonight. I don't know how we've gotten back. We've gone like it's like the timeline of baseball is a closed circle. Spends a little pit stop with the Mets, and then now he's back. I ridiculous. I think the Astros are just going to win the pennant at least. I don't think there's anyone that's really going to stop them. I think they probably have one of the best deadlines and a rather, calm trade deadline. They got way better. Verlander's still pitching very well, and it's scary, and I'm upset.
Yeah. It's the Astros, so even when they do have weaknesses, you give them the benefit of the doubt, right? And they just shored up their biggest, which was not having Justin Verlander. Like
Yeah.
that was the thing that was supposed to make them drop off from year to year.
Their
And
top
now
dog.
that window of time where Altuve and Jordan weren't healthy, that was really nice because I got to pretend that the Astros just kind of like weren't there.
Right.
Half
And
a game back
hey,
at Texas.
can't forget that Framber just threw a no-hitter too.
Yeah,
He
that
couldn't
was
be any hotter.
yeah. Framber just is a very quietly devastating pitcher to watch. Just ground outs and just
Yeah.
big looping curveballs. You can't do anything about it.
Heavy two-seamer that is just very high velo two-seamers that are really hard to even like get the bat on the ball. He gets a lot of swing and miss
Right.
for a
Doesn't-
two-seamer anyway.
I haven't
At
Have you
least.
guys ever tried?
We're
Have you guys ever tried to
nonchalant.
throw a sinker?
Yeah, not easy.
From time
It's
to time.
not.
You
I
got to
mean,
pronate
yeah.
your arm, like your wrist, like the other way to make it actually dip.
Yeah, I was having a hard time throwing it the other day, but cutters, I think I can handle. Framber's cutter is also nasty.
Maybe
What
one
else did the Astros do? It doesn't really matter. They got
No,
Verlander.
yeah, it
Right.
doesn't.
the pitching is locked down. They just got Kendall Graveman too. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
speaking from the White Sox experience with him, not too great, but I mean, when he was an Astro in the past, he was that guy.
Yeah, I mean, maybe
He
he
got a
just
lot of guys.
he's just got to play on like an actual baseball team, and then he'll care.
Exactly. That's how it goes.
But if there's one team that should be similarly happy, and they should be very glad that they acted first. My SpongeBob, the Texas Rangers. This is a team that knows it's good, and is trying to turn themselves into a full-blown World Series contender, one of the contenders this year. And I think getting Scherzer and Montgomery like that kind of upgrade to your rotation in the middle of the year, and you didn't even, didn't do anything that crazy to your future. You got Heim needs to come back for them. It's kind of crazy to have that much production from your catcher, but
They did
He's
make a
young.
trade for Austin Hedges, was it?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
that's some depth. to
They
show.
did
Yeah.
also just get Seager back yesterday, and he hit a home run.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think they're going to be okay. I mean, they're definitely going to make the playoffs. I don't think they're going to hold off this half-game lead over the Astros, especially because as of recording this, at this moment, Max Scherzer is making his first start, and he's getting a little bit lit up by the White Sox.
Embarrassing.
Pretty embarrassing.
That's bad.
Um,
How do you let that happen?
and I don't know.
You
I
just
think
have to throw strikes and they will get out.
Yeah.
if one of the two Mets pitchers, Scherzer and Verlander, are former Mets pitchers, if you had to pick one, you definitely pick Verlander. Scherzer is showing legitimate signs of of regression and being just not in his prime anymore.
You think-
Verlander looks on top of his game. It's terrifying.
Do you think being married to Kate Upton keeps him like really like high strung? Like, he looks cool out there, but in reality, he's like, I got to keep this up. Like, she's gonna leave me if anything goes wrong.
Verlander is the
Right.
perfect player for the Oakland A's in 2002.
Yeah, because we would never know his name, but he would.
Yeah, they would not show him in Moneyball.
No, they wouldn't. He's
Yeah.
too
He'd
handsome.
be in
Brad
like
Pitt.
slightly out of frame with Miguel Tejada and Barry Zito.
Brad Pitt, Brad Pitt would see him on set. He's like, "Get this man out of here!" Like, we said sevens or below. Brad Pitt's here. We gotta keep him. Gotta keep him there.
Is Brad
Move-
Pitt a 7? I don't understand.
No, he wants nobody like even in his
Yeah.
stratosphere. You
Yeah.
know
Fair enough. That's why I
I-
get Jonah Hill. Poor Jonah Hill.
exactly. I
Well-
think that's what I would do if I got really rich. I would just gain and lose the same 30 pounds only in my upper body for the rest of my life.
Just to show everyone you can.
Yeah.
Just to
And like,
people's faces.
you can have something to talk about, and if your back hurts, you can be like, hey, my back hurts. You can't really be mad at me right now. Have your back hurting sucks.
I feel like, hold
Speaking
on,
of-
we got to bring up the Mets angle a little bit. How
Yes,
they
we
kind
do.
of paid for prospects, and it's surprising me that the Acuna's little brother is top 50 prospect in all of baseball in Double-A, hitting very well, and he's more highly regarded than the prospects they got from the Astros. And I would think that Verlander had a lot higher trade value, but I guess maybe you guys have insight. I guess maybe the no trade clause had played a role, so maybe you couldn't actually get the exact proper value because the teams that you're able to deal to were limited. But I thought that was really interesting.
Oh my God. Oh, it's so windy. I heard you, but it's very windy.
We can't hear any
Um,
of it, so that's good.
Because I think the wind chimes really add a sort of pleasant ASMR type. Hey, Jamie, to speak on that. Remember, Scherzer was first,
Yeah.
and Verlander. I think there's a decent chance the Astros don't go pick up Verlander if the Rangers don't get Scherzer. Created sort of an arms race, but the Mets then went and profited off of. That's some pretty savvy stuff. They
Yeah.
really positioned themselves well for a couple of years down the line. And hearing their GM speak about their organizational future with such clarity when the
Huh.
team across town just can't. But that's for later.
One more
Uh,
surprising thing about
alright.
the Mets,
James,
though, is that
Your
they
Jamie,
SpongeBob.
Wait, hold on.
shush. It's SpongeBob Part 3 time.
Yeah.
And we're staying in the AL West with the Los Angeles Anaheim Angels. And this is like more of a ignorance is bliss type SpongeBob pick, I'd say, because I mean, in that division, who knows if they'll even sniff the playoffs. I mean, I hope they do, because those fans, they deserve nothing more in the world than to see Ohtani in the playoffs for them. And that's what they did by not refusing to refusing to trade him, like a lot of people thought they would have. And not only that, but they bolstered a lot of parts of the team. Like, you got Giolito from the White Sox and Ronaldo Lopez, can't forget him. The Giolito, I mean, he was in the last year's contract, and I believe Lopez was too. Sox fan, it was hard to see them go because that pretty much signifies the failure of the rebuild that they attempted.
But
Because
no, they're going to contend next year. Didn't you
yeah,
hear?
allegedly, with Luis Robert and a bunch of scraps and Dylan Cease, of course. But we get to that later.
Yeah. They're
But
going
for
for
the
it.
yeah. But for the Angels, yeah, they're going for it. They also got a couple guys from the Rockies, CJ Crone back with the Angels, and Grichuk. Was he with the Angels before? Can't remember,
I
but
think so.
yeah, so they're both back there. I mean, good bats to have.
Yeah.
Their offense, I mean, with like Trout being so iffy on his existence, and I mean, Otani's really the only thing carrying that at the moment. They do. I mean, Moustakas, I
Vicky
think.
Moniak, though.
Yeah,
He's doing
Moniak's
really
been
well.
hot. I think I saw somewhere his BABIP is super high, like maybe as
He's
high
not
as
a true
80.
900 OPS player.
Yeah, so he's probably gonna come back to earth at some point, but they'll enjoy it while it lasts.
Look,
And then
we're not. This is the Angels we're talking about. The
right, they
future,
don't have good
the
things.
future doesn't exist.
Right. It's impending doom, like
And
every
planning for the future has never even been their strong suit.
you know.
And they've never been good at it. So if you're an Angels fan, just sit back, relax, enjoy these next 2 months, and maybe pick up another hobby next summer.
Right. Soak it in and then prepare the funeral arrangements for when
Yeah.
Otani signs with like the Dodgers.
Yes. Now moving
Weird.
on to our Patrick portion of the evening. Jamie, what team's making you go, maybe scratching your chin, going,
Yeah, I'm a little confused about the Orioles. They got Jack Flaherty and not really anything else notable. And it's just a little bit perplexing because they talked about how they don't want to mortgage their future, but they really didn't do anything. Like they're still like they could have still upgraded much more and still retained like Jackson Holiday and their top guys.
oh my
They
God,
just
yeah.
didn't do that.
They have
And
such a surplus of hitting talent.
they have you're right, the offense is super good. The pitching, even with Jack Flaherty, is just super suspect. Not the starting pitching. Tyler Wells is your three. Jack Flaherty and Grayson Rodriguez is your 1 and 2. It's just like I could definitely that offense is probably going to carry them to a division title, but I could just see that pitching just not holding up in the playoffs, and they could just get rocked.
Yeah.
I could see it being actually ugly.
You need more starting pitching than they have. Like, we don't know a lot, and they have the offense to compete, but you need more starting than that.
I mean, having just talked about the Astros and Rangers, like those rotations versus the O's, like it's not even close.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll definitely run into at least one of those teams.
They should.
in the
They're
playoffs.
trying to get the bye, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So whoever wins the AL East and AL West are going to get the bye because
Yeah.
the Central is terrible.
And the weird thing to me, because I know the Orioles kind of model their organization after the Astros, and they were terrible a few years ago, and they've slowly built up, and they haven't traded prospect capital. But one of the reasons the Astros could afford to do that is they were in a division where there are some teams that are just perpetually spinning their wheels. The AL East is cutthroat, and the Orioles window is just opening, but they're not guaranteed to be better than the Rays or the Blue Jays or even the Red Sox or Yankees any given year. Like, how often are they guaranteed to lead the division? Not very often.
You got to
So,
really separate yourself from the
yeah,
crowd, and they just didn't do that whatsoever. They
I
could
feel
have
like-
really. I mean, I'll get to this with the White Sox, but they really should have gone for Dylan Cease. I definitely think the only thing holding that back was the White Sox wanting Jackson Holiday, but
That was never
that-
happening in any
yeah,
world.
yeah,
ever.
exactly. Those were not going to let him go, but they definitely had a lot. I think the White Sox should have taken a smaller package than Jackson Holiday for Cease, because I mean, you will never get more value out of him now. But
Yeah.
anyway, like they could have also gotten Giolito too. I think they could have been more aggressive than the Angels.
yeah.
There are just so many options they could have gone with.
Yeah.
On
And
top
they
of Jack Flaherty, they could have still gone him and then gone others. But
Verlander.
yeah,
Yeah.
seriously.
or
No
Otani.
trade. I'm sure Verlander would waive his no trade to go to the Orioles.
Yeah.
I don't think that was a big issue. Yeah, it's just like blah. It's just like I don't
Right.
really see him as true World Series contenders, but like they're just not on the tier of the Astros and the Braves and even the Dodgers. They just don't have the pitching. I mean, if they get
Speaking
to
of the
the
Dodgers,
Dodgers,
that's a segue right there. That's what they call
Oh,
that biz. Because
smooth.
my Patrick team is the Los Angeles Dodgers. Not because I don't really know what's going on. I get all these names. Lance Lynn, Joe Kelly, Ahmed Rosario, Enrique Hernandez. That's his only name.
banned back in time.
Ryan Yarborough. They tried to get Eduardo Rodriguez in there. Such is life. All these names, these are all capital G guys. All right. When they're in the game, you don't really need to watch it. You're not there to see Ahmed Rosario. You're not there to see Lance Lynn. But guess what? Every other player on the team, real happy that Lance Lynn is going to soak up 5 innings. I was going to try and cook up a little narrative that he couldn't keep giving up this many homers. And I went and looked at the park factors. Dodger Stadium has the second highest home run park factor. So it might
Really?
continue that
That's
way, but
surprising.
he's not a playoff pitcher.
No.
Yeah, all the West Coast stadiums they have small dimensions. And I think for some teams the marine layer plays a bigger part. The Dodgers don't really have that. So they're just a little bit of a pinball machine when it comes to homers. This isn't a bad deadline by any means. And it's not like they needed to add any more star power. Lord
Right.
knows they're going to this offseason.
Oh, Tawny's happening.
Yeah, obviously. So I think playing it safe, getting some guys that are going to fill out their roster for the rest of the season. It's boring, which is why it's in the for me, but I see the vision for them.
Right. They didn't have to give up too much or anything. They got
Yeah.
stars already, just need the depth. And boom.
They love themselves a good reclamation project.
Yeah. And then
Remember Andrew
PK
Heaney?
back there. That's a good
Don't
story.
want to remember Andrew Heaney.
Remember Joey Gallo?
Yeah.
They gave up a top 10. They gave up a top 10 prospect in their organization just because they were like, "Yeah, we'll give it to you. We got 35 more of them."
Oh,
For the
that was Clayton.
Dodgers.
That was Clayton Beater, correct?
Yeah, Clayton Beater.
He's been
who-
really good in Double
yeah,
A this year for the Yankees. I've
yeah.
been checking up on him every
Yeah.
once in a while. He's very good.
Yeah.
Okay, so rounding out the Patrick section of this game, I'm going with the Chicago Cubs. And this is one that I'm really just like whatchamacallit, hoodwinked by, I'd say. Just
Hoodwinked?
hoodwinked by the direction that they decide to go in. Because I think I speak for a lot of Cubs fans especially, but just a lot of observers of this deadline when we're shocked that they didn't really sell. I think they really should have sold because I mean they in that division right now. I mean, definitely right now it's fine that they're making a slight push just because as cool and awesome as the Reds are and as as good as the Brewers have kind of been lately, they're still kind of muddling along.
Dude,
Kind
they're
of
three back. They're three back of the
right,
division.
right. They're leaving a lot of room for the Cubs to just sneak in there, and they're 2.5 back of a wild card spot too. So all they really did, the major move, was bringing back Heimer Candelario, and I don't know if we've spoken on Heimer Candelario on this podcast at all, but I'm gonna quickly look at the F WAR rankings for NL third baseman. Actually,
It's
just
very
third
high.
baseman
It's very
overall.
high.
He is very high. He is
Jamie
actually
and I actually talked about this, that he had a higher
Yeah.
one than Nolan Arenado when we
Right.
We
checked.
did. We
he
did. in
actually
your
is
absence.
number 1 in the NL, and he's only 0.3 behind Jose Ramirez for most valuable in the league. So they got him and only had to, I think they gave up a couple prospects, but they still have the like one of the best farm systems in the whole league. And that's headlined by Pete Crow Armstrong, which that many
name.
have said might be the Mets Tatis trade.
Wow.
Because-
how close is he to MLB?
I think he just got to AA.
Or
And
just got to
he-
Double A. So he's over a year away at least.
Yeah, and he's been crushing it. Like
What trade was it?
What?
What trade did they get him?
There's
from
the
Yankees?
what was it? No,
The
no,
Stroman trade?
no.
No, they didn't
It
trade
was
Stroman for Stroman.
Yeah, no,
They
it's
signed
not.
him. Dansby
It
Swanson's
was
been having a really good year too. I kind of like that team. They're just like
oh
they're very just
They're just decent.
good. Yeah.
It's like a version of the Angels where doomsday is not imminent, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, just go have fun. Try and win the Central. It's a winnable division. I'm sorry, no one's really scared of the Brewers or
right.
the other team that's
Oh.
up there.
Hold the phone real quick. The trade that they got Pete in was the Javi Baez trade.
Yes.
So
Oh, wow.
If I remember
that
correctly,
really did not pay off for the Mets whatsoever.
well, if I remember right, that was the half season where pitchers just stopped throwing him strikes at all. And so he did end up getting a decent walk rate because he was just not getting balls in the
Yeah.
zone. And the Tigers saw that and they were like, all right, man, we can capitalize on this. And we haven't spoken about the Tigers today, and there's a reason.
Wait. Before we get to the Tigers, if we're
We
going,
haven't.
We're,
We're
I
not.
think we're not going to talk
we're
about the
if we
Tigers.
are even, we're not. Okay, good. But I just want to point out real quick that I was wrong. Pete just got to AAA.
Oh, so
Uh-oh.
he's coming.
So
Wait a minute.
AA, his stats there, his WRC plus was 134 down in AA. Had a cool 898 OPS. And I mean, there's not much else to say. 14 homers in 73 games down there. He was just crushing it and doing everything else as he should be. He's an outfielder just playing stellar defense. I've seen too many highlights of him just making incredible plays. So he's going to definitely be like a threat in that whole division when he gets called up eventually. And outside of that, I mean, they're in a weird spot when it comes to a lot of these temporary guys they got, which is another reason why.
Bellinger.
Yeah, Bellinger being one. Like a lot of people thought they'd trade him. They didn't. And they have a bunch of random other guys just contributing really well for them these days. Like Mike
Yeah.
Tauchman. He's really emerged
Yankees
lately.
legend.
Part of it was the market too. Like pitchers were getting crazy returns and hitters just weren't.
Yeah. And they
Um,
didn't trade Stroman either. A lot of people thought they'd dish him out somewhere.
His NFTs are too valuable.
He's been really bad of late, though.
Yeah, and he got injured too. So
And he's short.
Exact. That's the worst.
Wow.
Yeah.
Not
God.
2002 A's player.
Definitely far
So-
from it. He's a 2 at most.
Moving on.
Wow.
Now the order that we've been going for these first two rounds, I think would doing that order for the Squidward portion of this would be a disservice because we're going to be talking about the two teams that the members of this podcast hold near and dear. So I thought we'd switch it up for this round, and I can get my team out of the way because who really cares? Well, I care about the Cincinnati Reds. The Cincinnati Reds. What are you doing? What are you doing?
I don't know.
Tell us, man.
They sat on their hands. They just sat on their hands, and they're not even going to get anything out of it later. Okay, they got Sam Mole, lefty reliever. Basically, the bare minimum you could do, as we're going to find out later, is pick up an arm in the pen. But same team as before, and they are in position to win a very winnable division. They got young talent. Their window is opening. And like the Orioles, they need pitching. They need pitching badly. Go look at their rotation. It's not great. And they got some injuries to deal with too. And they, unlike the Orioles, they don't have the luxury of an insanely good lineup. Now, also unlike the Orioles, they don't have to play, in the toughest division, but still to just not really do anything when you have this window, gotta feel real disheartening for a Reds fan.
Right. I mean, obviously the only huge thing going forward for them is Ellie. Outside of that, I feel like they've benefited from a lot of guys who are like, they didn't have much hype, but hey, they showed up and they're having good seasons. But I feel like you can't really count on them doing that long term, like as much as they've enjoyed like Spencer Steer and I don't know the beginning of Christian Encarnacion Strand and
Jake Fraley's been
right,
good.
yeah.
TJ Friedel.
This is they got like a Mick guy. What's Mick something?
That's
Oh,
a really they're called Irish. They're called the Irish. I wouldn't say that.
But anyway, what I'm trying to say is and after seeing Jonathan India just completely fall off the map, I feel like they can't really count on all
He's
these
back.
guys.
He's back to league average though, and he's only 26. Same with Tyler Stevenson having a down year, but everyone in their lineup is the oldest person in their lineup right now, other than Joey Votto, is like 29. That's the other thing. You got like 2 years left of Joey Votto. Give him something to play for. He's so cool, man. He's the best. There's a picture of me when I was like 10 wearing a Joey Votto jersey. I gotta find that. He was the original guy where I was like, he was my first prediction of like this guy's going places.
You're like,
It's like,
oh, this guy's named Joey?
yeah,
My
exactly.
guy.
I was like, it was like 2008. I know I sound like LeBron talking about a prospect right now, and Joey Votto was already very good, and it wasn't difficult at all to figure out that he'd be good, but he is my favorite non-Yankee.
Wow.
Yeah, I would say so. And I am a little disappointed that the Reds didn't capitalize on that more. Still a solid team with a chance to make the postseason, and let's hope that happens for them.
One thing you can't overlook is that we found out that James is irophobic.
Yeah,
Irophobic.
yeah,
Yeah.
Man.
yeah.
The Italophobia is
I
coming back,
mean,
so you never
I mean,
know.
Y'all
we're
didn't see me on
anti-Semitic
St.
though, so it's
Patty's Day. I
okay.
was
No,
wearing
we're not. That's a joke. We're not anti-Semitic, but when
You're the kind of guy who culturally appropriates St. Patrick's Day. You don't even. I bet you don't even
Hey, man.
have 10% Irish.
1%.
1%. Oh yeah.
you wouldn't
did
even be
defend-
able to look Mark Wahlberg in the eyes, you coward.
I'm saying
Well,
the
you
threshold
couldn't
is
'cause he's way
10%.
They wouldn't
shorter
even
than
let
you.
me into Boston.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
You don't need to
take
go
a step into Boston and you're already being racist.
there. Yeah.
Just your presence.
The Dropkick Murphys will find you and they will compromise you to a permanent end.
They'll really emphasize the drop kick part of their name
Mm.
when they
Before
see
we create any more international incidents,
all right.
James.
Yeah, moving
Not
on
Jamie.
to this. Oh, okay, because I know we got to save the best for last.
We had to save
Yes,
the best for
obviously.
last. So let's
course.
talk
Obviously.
about the White Sox.
Yeah, so the White Sox, obviously, I mean, if anyone listening or watching has seen the coverage of the White Sox deadline and the aftermath, you know where I'm coming from because after trading away, I believe 6 pitchers and they also trade away Jake Berger, one of their best hitters this season. The GM, Rick Hahn, had the audacity to say that they're trying to contend in 2024. And that's with the only major offensive piece being Luis Robert, which, okay, that's fair. I mean, he's going to be the best regardless, I think. And the rotation full of Dylan Cease, who, okay, I think they should have traded him, but I'm fine with them keeping him if they weren't able to get say like Jackson Holiday. I mean, I don't think that was going to happen. But outside of Cease, the rotation is literally Michael Kopech, who hasn't shown any consistency really when he's healthy. And then it's Mike Clevenger, who we all know about Mike Clevenger.
Yucky.
And yeah, yucky. That's all you could say. And
Boo.
then We have this dude Schultens, who has kind of been like a doubleheader type pitcher that they'd call up just to be the 26th man, pitch a few innings, and hopefully not get rocked. But now he's a full-time starter, and that's bad news for the Sox. And now the fifth guy is Tukey Toussaint, who, I mean, back in the day, he was a pretty highly thought of prospect for Atlanta. Didn't turn into much, and now he's just getting passed around the league. And that's the rotation that they think they're going to contend with next year. And I just think they're ridiculous for
Do they
thinking.
have any budget for free agents at all?
Well, with Jerry Reinsdorf saying going into this year that they were cutting payroll, it's very hard to believe that they'll really expand the budget. And that's after they dumped some of the money, some of the dead money they've had, like Lance Lynn, Kendall Graveman. Those are some bigger contracts that they sort of just got rid of. And I think they shored off like around 30 million for next year overall.
What's the
But
status on Yasmani?
he's
Hooked.
cooked, finished.
No,
He's-
but like contract wise.
Oh, I believe it's his last season. I think some
good.
team could have taken him. I think the Rangers could have taken him.
What's going on with Tim Anderson too?
He's
Worst
terrible.
player in baseball? That's shocking.
He has Javi Baez disease. If you
He
if you
does.
keep
No.
chasing pitches, eventually you don't get good pitches anymore.
Exactly. And he has hit approximately one home run in the past year.
That's
Approximately.
bad.
And teams were still rumored to be interested in him at the deadline, which I thought was shocking. Like I think the Blue Jays had some interest before they got DeYoung. The Marlins had some interest. Honestly, wish they could have thrown him in with Jake Berger to Miami. Especially since Miami just threw away Gene Segura too. Like that kind of opened up a hole potentially for another mid shortstop. But the White Sox chose to keep Tim Anderson. That's
I mean, his
fine
trade
in
value
Miami.
has
Got a
to be
team option,
negative
right?
right now.
Right. He
And
just
how-
has a contract, I think, for another year.
It's
That's
a
the only-
team option, right? I don't.
Yeah,
believe.
yeah. So I thought they may as well get something for him. They would be stupid to give him a qualifying offer at this point. And just bring him back or whatever. But
I gotta say,
everything else is just a
I'm not as down on what they did as you are, part because I'm just not a fan of the team. But they did deal like 6 pitchers, and they got stuff for them. They got Corey Lee,
right,
you-
right.
what
They
do you,
got
and
good
and
return.
Edgar Cuero. What do you think of these guys?
Cuero, I mean, he's my initial reaction after like just seeing the trade, yeah, it was just switch hitting catcher who has good power tool. Like obviously I'm thinking a Walmart or a Wish version of Adley would be ideal. But
Oh.
they
Aw.
apparently the Angels rushed him to AA and he was
I call him Aldi Rutschman.
right. Yeah, I like that. But they rushed him to AA. He was doing very poorly before he got traded. But before then, he was killing it. And the Sox put him in AA immediately, and he's still been meh at this point.
It's
But
been like 3 days.
right. Obviously, you're gonna have to take a little longer to get a judgment. And he's only 20 years old too. So
Yeah.
got a lot of time to let him marinate in the system and just actually see what he's got. And then the pitcher we got, Kai Bush, he's also pretty decent, a lefty, and that's something the White Sox have lacked a lot in the last few years when they've been trying to contend is lefties. And they got him, and then from Miami, Jake Eder. He was another top lefty prospect in the Miami system. And I think I saw in some rankings he was top 100, but currently he was just the Marlins' 4th best prospect. And I think for Jake Berger, I mean, Berger had a great bat for sure, but that's really all he had. I think that's a good return for Jake Berger.
I think
And,
this. I think the story on the White Sox is, I think they made some moves that made sense, but I don't think that anybody believes that they're going to build on that to further their own success, which has to just make you want to bang your head against the
right.
wall.
Especially
Speaking of that,
okay.
speaking of that, Do you want to know, Jamie, who is hitting fifth tonight for your New York Yankees, the pride of New
can
York,
I-
the Bronx
can I-
Bombers?
Can I guess? Okay.
Yes.
DJ LeMahieu.
No, he
No,
is
no, give
actually
me another
not
guess.
playing today.
Is it really? Is it? It can't be. Is it Bader?
I'll tell you who's not in the lineup for a second day in a row is Anthony Rizzo.
Is it Jake Bowers? This is a happy
No,
thing.
it's Billy McKinney.
Oh no.
Their bottom 5 in the lineup are Billy McKinney, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, Harrison Bader, Anthony Volpe, and Ben Rortvedt. Who is
Is Jake Bowers in the lineup?
Jake Bowers is leading off and playing first. Rizzo is out of the lineup for the second game in a row, which
Thank
seems
God.
noteworthy. That seems very noteworthy to me personally. But we don't need to
Yeah.
tell. If you've listened to even 10 seconds of this podcast, you know who Jamie Squidward is. So I'm just going to let him
Let
go.
him cook.
So, the New York Yankees went into this deadline in last place, and instead of improving the team or improving for the future, they did nothing. Absolutely nothing. They got one of James's relievers. I don't
Keenan.
even remember his name. I don't even
Keenan
care.
Middleton, respect him.
What is his basketball velo? Give me the scouting report.
It's decent. I mean, you're talking to someone who stopped watching the White Sox really
Oh, so it
generally
doesn't matter.
for a
It's
while.
irrelevant.
But
You're not allowed to
he's
say
been
that.
okay.
I really want to dive into just the Brian Cashman angle here. It's bad. There's fire Cashman chants at the stadium every night now. It seems totally directionless. The only way to rationalize it is that the Yankees front office think they can make the playoffs, which is, I think we can all agree, that's kind of crazy.
They also think they can make it next year with the same team. They think that
Yeah.
they think they're underperforming.
Yeah, and that's where it gets into like Brian Cashman's like press conferences over the years. Is just I'll be clear. I think the problem with the New York Yankees right now is their leadership. Brian Cashman is the problem. He's the number one problem. He has spent his time. It's time to move on. And Hal will never move on because they're family friends and they're like, he's never gonna fire anyone. I saw something other day. It was like Hal Steinbrenner has not fired anyone that George Steinbrenner had in top leadership.
Oh yeah.
Which
That
is
was dad's
crazy.
that was dad's move.
Yeah. And Cashman just seems to have no direction. I mean, he seems delusional, like borderline like narcissistic when you watch his press conferences.
Oh my god, the fucking smug, like
Oh, I'll get into that. He never, and this is not just this year. There have been problems with the Yankees for years now. And he has never once, I have never heard him take accountability for anything, any mistake ever. It is always an excuse. And the excuse he gave this time is usually injuries. Injuries are the excuse. He can't admit that he put together a bad roster. He can't do it. He can't do it. You tell him, someone asks him, why haven't you had a left fielder for 4 years? When I went to college, we did not have a left fielder. I graduated college. We still don't have a left fielder. The last left fielder we had was Brett Gardner in 2019.
Yeah.
We haven't had a left fielder.
it's
And when you
bizarre.
ask, and then the reporters ask him that, he's like, well, I had budget constraints. You signed Carlos Rodon.
There's no
It's
budget constraints.
Yeah,
delusional.
if
the
you're
Yankees.
in the
Delusional.
Yankees, budget's not in your vocab.
The Yankees,
Completely
the-
delusional.
everything we talk about with contention windows when it comes to like the Reds or whichever other team we were talking about, the Orioles, doesn't exist for the Yankees. You can
Yeah.
go really not getting Bryce Harper is, I think,
Oh, we're gonna talk about the
that's
Bryce
the fork
Harper
in the
thing.
road where
We're gonna
this
get to
where
that.
this era of
That's
the
big.
Yankees
Yeah. Yeah.
went wrong permanently.
I completely agree. Just to finish our little psychoanalysis on Brian Cashman, I hate how he talks down to reporters. He does it all the time. He talks down to reporters, makes it seem like the reporters are asking dumb questions when they're not. He thinks he's smarter than everyone else. It's just like it's so palpable when you're watching his interviews where he clearly thinks that that every reporter is stupid and he can never admit where he's wrong. Brian Cashman is never wrong in his brain.
Yeah.
Which is why I think he has like some kind of personality disorder.
Yeah.
Because I feel like a normal person, a normal human being who is in a position of leadership could go up onto or onto an interview and be like, yeah, I couldn't get a left fielder for 4 years. It's my fault. I messed up. Brian Cashman can't do that. He's not mentally capable of that. And you brought up Bryce Harper and where things all went wrong. And it is the Giancarlo Stanton trade. That is where everything went wrong for this era of Yankees baseball. And
Yeah.
I think that I
It's
like
not even
Stanton,
about Stanton
but
specifically.
it's not him personally. It's his contract. And no, it is. Well, it is about Stanton. I hope
Yeah,
Stanton
he's
succeeds.
just
I
a
like
worse
him,
version of Judge. I love Stanton, but he's just a worse version of Judge.
and his contract is atrocious.
Yeah,
And he can only DH. And
But-
okay,
there are no
Real talk.
words. I mean,
It-
there are words. There's a lot of words.
we can. So a couple of days ago or yesterday, I believe, someone on the Yankee Reddit reposted an article from 2019 with Brian it was an interview with Brian Cashman on 2019
Yeah.
offseason into 2019.
I think
It
I
was
know what you're
about
about to say.
why he didn't go after Bryce Harper. And I think all the things he said, which we'll get into, just highlight all the stuff I just said about him not being able to take accountability, him talking down to reporters, him just thinking everything he's doing is right when it's not. And we tried to talk about Stan because the reason we didn't have the budget, and I think it's fine for how to set a budget. Like Brian Cashman has been here for 20 years. He should be able to win with the best budget in baseball. Like that's ridiculous. I do have to give Hal a little bit of like heat because like he's the only one who can fire Brian Cashman. So like it's kind of also his fault in that way. But like I don't think it's his fault for like setting a budget. Anyway,
No.
you trade for Giancarlo Stanton. Just won the MVP. Seems kind of flashy. But even at the time, it was suspect because he is just Aaron Judge and they play the same position. And it clogs up the DH. And we knew Bryce Harper was coming up. Bryce Harper grew up in Las Vegas, famously. Maybe not that famously. But he was a fan of the New York Yankees growing up. His favorite baseball player is Mickey Mantle. Mickey Mantle. Bryce Harper wanted to go to the Yankees so bad that he started saying he's going to play first base because the Yankees had a clogged up outfield. Because right, they had Judge, Hicks, Stanton in the outfield. Like, and he was like, Scott Boras, remember that? I can play first base because the Yankees kind of had Greg Bird and kind of had a cool postseason, but like we didn't really know, you know what I mean? Well, obviously, we inevitably end up trying Greg Bird. It didn't work. So like Bryce Harper was like, I'm going to play first base, and obviously the Yankees never had any serious interest in Bryce Harper. Didn't get Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper goes on to win an MVP for the Phillies, NLCS MVP for the Phillies. Probably would have put the Yankees over the hump. You need that lefty thumper to go with Judge, which they have not had.
I think they win the World Series in 2019 if they have him.
I agree.
Full
I think
stop.
him or Yelich would get them there.
Yeah. I think the defining problem with the Yankees is they think of themselves as being the smartest person in the room. And I think the trade that truly put the nail in the coffin on this era was the trade that we were all in the same room for. And I specifically remember the feeling of dread I had when James walked into my room and told me about the Donaldson IKF Rortvet trade.
That was disgusting.
My head started the gears in my head started spinning trying to rationalize it.
I'd be nauseous.
But like to really pull it back, they needed a shortstop, short term. the best shortstop, and I know that Carlos Correa, that's where I'm going. I know Carlos Correa is not doing that well this year, but let's put ourselves in a March of 2022 mind frame, right? Top 5 shortstop in the league, wants a short-term deal, wants to play for a winner. Because of some flimsy budgetary restraint, they went, and because they believed in a 19-year-old, who I believe in too, I believe in Anthony Volpe, but putting all of this pressure on him to be the guy as soon as possible, they go and trade Josh Donaldson, a big contract. He'd been playing well, but he had the major potential to
He had
decline,
good
which he
exit
obviously
velo,
did.
Joey. Good exit velo.
Yeah, but he was
Wingman.
legitimately good, but he was also 37. And guys like that age, they get worse. You
No,
have
it's
2
certainly
years
a
of that.
suspect trade. It
Not
was
only
so
that,
suspect.
you have you bring in IKF, who we love, but he's not a starting shortstop. So you have 2 guys who are crazy risks, right?
Mhm.
When ideally, if you're bringing in 2 guys like that, one of them's a sure thing, one of them is the flyer. And to top it all off, the Twins then use that money to sign the guy who would have fixed your problems. You could have just gotten him for money. You could have just gotten Correa for money. I don't care how many times the Yankees have beaten the Twins in the division series. I think that those 2 teams are even in the last 20 years because of that trade.
Definitely.
Absolute disaster. And I don't even
For
care
sure.
that Gary and Gio wouldn't make an impact on this
I'd
team.
like to circle back real quick on Bryce Harper. Let's just finish that point because what the interview, I want to talk about the interview that Cashman gave like winter 2019.
Yeah.
So the reasons that the Yankees did not get Bryce Harper officially per Brian Cashman. Number 1, Yankees had too many outfielders. Hilarious. Objectively
Aaron
hilarious.
Hicks. Who
It's
wait, what year was
objectively
this?
funny.
What year was this?
2019. So they had Brett Gardner and Aaron Hicks. I guess who were the guys clogged
I'll
out
I'll look
stopping
up their
Bryce Harper.
team.
Aaron Hicks is just too
Was he
good.
talking about Cameron Maben?
No,
No,
cameraman they would have acquired later in the season.
Oh yeah.
McCutcheon.
Cauchin was the year before. He was
Oh, they
free
had
agent.
Clint Frazier. Don't forget about Clint
Of
Frazier.
course.
Yeah. So they had too
Yes.
many outfielders, which is so hilarious. And like Brian Cashman to this day will not be able to admit that he was wrong. They didn't have too much outfielders. You ask him, you go and ask him right now. He'll just be like, no, he'll just make up some excuse. The next thing that Brian Cashman said, and this thing makes me so angry. He said, I did not like the feeling of inevitability that the industry and the fans had with the Yankees signing Bryce Harper. That reads
What?
to me like he's such like a little man baby who's like, I don't want to be told what to do. He is the most egotistical narcissist. I can't. He needs to go. He needs to be fired.
That's
It's
Yeah.
You want to be
incompetence.
like,
It's
oh, we can
incomplete
win without
incompetence.
doing this.
yeah.
So
Just want to
stupid.
prove
Like-
who?
Like
Who
he's
do you
trying to
wanna
be
some-
prove?
contrarian.
Like
for
some
some reason.
some surly 13-year-old who doesn't want to be told what to do by their parents. It's bizarre.
It's
You
crazy.
don't need to be a genius to say Bryce Harper is good. He wants to play for you. He's going to be a
I
Hall of
know
Famer. Lock him
exactly.
up.
Yeah,
It,
right.
Yeah. No.
But we can get
Yeah.
Stanton, who's just Judge but worse. And he won the MVP, but Judge was still had higher like WAR and peripherals and OPS, even though Stanton
Yeah.
hit more home runs that year. Let's
Well-
get this let's lock down this DH for 10 years and then not sign Harper or Machado or any of these other guys. And then to wrap up, I think is important with the problems with the Yankees. You got to talk about how they could not get any impact left-handed hitting for
None.
6 years.
No lefties. It's
I just want
insane.
to go over just like a few of the guys they've just completely missed on. First up, I think people sometimes make fun of me for this one. I think Christian Yelich was a huge miss. You go to his baseball reference page. I know Christian Yelich, like he's having a good year 2023, but like 2020 through 2022, he's been pretty bad. And people say that's bad contract that the Brewers gave him. But go look at back at his baseball card. And you tell me that 2018 or 2019 Christian Yelich on the Yankees doesn't push them over the
MVP,
top to make a World Series?
like easily.
And even at the time, he was an athletic, good player with the Marlins, who was highly coveted. But we went for Stanton instead. And the thing's crazy how we just got out of A-Rod's contract like 2 years ago, and then we just went right back in for Giancarlo Stanton. And yeah, so Yelich was the miss, and then the next year you had Harper, complete miss again. And Harper's being paid less than Stanton. That's great.
Only 25 mil for Harper. That's
I
hilarious.
know, it's ridiculous.
I
And then we'll go next weekend. This one's a little more suspect, but Corey Seager
could have
got
gotten
a
him.
crazy big contract, but he's the best shortstop in baseball, lefty hitter. Like, you think, that maybe you have to be more of a risk, but miss Corey Seager. And then you missed on Matt Olson. who
Yeah.
you could have got for just some
Ouch.
prospects.
That one, honestly, aside from Harper, is the one that makes me the angriest.
Yeah, Olsen makes me angry as well.
Like 'cause
Rizzo, man, he's the answer.
He is not the answer.
Use your wish, Matt Olson.
it is truly a masterclass on just mismanaging a potential core.
It's terrible.
And
And they need
in the near
left-handed hitting.
future, yeah,
At Yankee Stadium, they need it. They need a good left-handed hitting at Yankee Stadium.
Yeah.
yeah.
I'll
We
get
can't
how
end on.
he-
This is a rough note to end on.
Well, we can talk about the future. Is that Brian Cashman has more targets, left-handed hitters that he can miss on really soon. He can miss on Ohtani. He
I
can
have a-
miss him.
I have a good note to end on.
Soto's coming up, and also depending on how next year goes, Japanese slugger Murakami. That's a fun one, but we'll see how he does in his last year in Japan. So there's a lot of opportunities for left-handed hitting still, and I guarantee the Yankees will probably not get any of them. Maybe
Yeah.
I think they might like Juan Soto. We'll see.
Doubtful. If
It
Cashman
is doubtful. I think Soto is way more likely than Ohtani, though,
Oh,
because the Yankees apparently sent scouts to San Diego this week because they thought the Padres might trade Soto. So I don't know, maybe.
yeah. So Joey, how did you
How do you want to wrap this
segue
up?
out of this?
I'm playing
This
us
is
out.
sadness.
This is
I
how I'm
think-
feeling right now.
We can't hear it.
Well, guys, that was the trade deadline. That was fourth true outcome. We got 2 more months left in the regular season, and that feels kind of like a threat. But as always, I am
gone by really
excited to see
fast.
what happens. Fellas, where can the people find you?
We're on the Instagram, we're on the Twitter, we're
Yeah.
on the TikTok, but
You-
on
are we
Instagram,
on
you'll
TikTok?
see the title card at the
Yeah.
end of
You can
this.
find Jamie at a Home Depot near Sleepy Hollow, New York.
Dude, they won't hire me.
Um,
It's crazy.
You can
yeah.
find me.
Ooh, shit. Ah! Ah! Ooh, glizzy, glizzy. You're such a fucking hoe. I love it. Ah! Ooh, Rose smells so good. Yes, yes, yes.
Year bought membership. I think we